What started as a search for a missing teen in Olympia has turned into a murder investigation and two 16-year-olds in juvenile custody in Pierce County. Authorities arrested the two teens, including Gabe Davies, Friday night and booked them into the Remand Hall Juvenile Detention Center.
Carlee Russel captured the nation's attention on July 13, 2023, when she was reported missing and possibly abducted on the side of a highway in Hoover, Alabama. While the country searched, prayed, and hoped for her safe return, the only real danger Carlee faced was running out of snacks as she pulled off one of the most elaborate and allegedly well-researched ruses ever. Just like Sherri Papini several years before her, Carlee staged her own kidnapping for reasons we may never understand. In the summer of 2022, 16-year-old Gabe Davies would join the ranks of false kidnapping perpetrators in an attempt to avoid serious charges on an unrelated crime. Welcome to another episode of Have a Seat with Chris Hansen. I'm Chris Hansen, and now another collaboration with our friend and cohort, Wes Most. It was every parent's worst nightmare, and it started with a missing teenager. That was startling enough, but wait till you hear and see all the twists and turns that happened after that. When it was all over, the residents of Olympia, Washington would be left asking the same question they still grapple with today. Why would this popular high school football star stage his own abduction to cover up a brutal crime?
But he was found. And he was alive, but he quickly went from a missing teenager to a murder suspect.
Olympia is the capital city of Washington. It's located at the southern tip of the Puget Sound. The city of 55,000 residents brags that it's the perfect blend of the feel of being a small, mid-sized city with big city amenities and a beautiful location. However, in the late summer of 2022, the city would be rocked by a horrific crime. Law enforcement is still struggling to explain it. Here's Wes Most.
On August 31st, 2022, 16-year-old high school sophomore Gabe Davies left home around 4 p.m. for what should have been a routine trip to football practice, only he never arrived. Gabe was described as an average student and a good athlete who didn't get into much trouble. This was out of character for the teen who had never run away or disappeared without explanation. Hours after he should have returned home from practice, Gabe Davies' truck was found abandoned in a private driveway miles from his home and damaged. There were signs of an injury, blood was found in the cab, and most disturbingly, his phone was found destroyed nearby.
Deputies found a vehicle with items strewn about, a small amount of blood inside the vehicle, and a phone that had been shattered.
As word of his disappearance spread, neighbors started calling police saying they had seen the teen walking alone on Tilley Road over a 5-mile stretch.
After a search of the immediate area, Gabe was nowhere to be found.
We have not received information that Gabriel is in danger, but he is 16 years old, and behavior is not characteristic of him. So we're very concerned, and his family is very concerned as well, so we're taking this very seriously.
The grim crime scene felt all too familiar for law enforcement, who had experienced 2 cases in the past 6 years where former high school athletes mysteriously vanished in the area. One of the previous cases bore striking similarities to the disappearance of Gabe Davies, right down to the specific location where Gabe's truck was found abandoned. Local law enforcement and volunteers sprung into action to find the missing teen, launching an exhaustive 2-day search.
The last tipster said Gabriel was walking into Miller-Sylvania State Park.
Good track.
Volunteer searchers, including bloodhounds using scents found at the truck, retraced the teen's apparent path today, looking for any clues to explain what happened to the soon-to-be high school junior.
36 hours later, on September 1st, 2022, at 10 p.m., Gabe Davies would be found alive, 3 miles from where the vehicle was abandoned, not far from a state park. He was described as disheveled and was wearing shorts but no shirt, socks, or shoes.
Breaking news, a missing teenager from Olympia is now found safe and is back home with his family. The Thurston County Sheriff's Office says he was found last night at 10 p.m. on Tilley Road, just south of Miller-Sylvania State Park near Tenino. That's where search crews had been looking for him yesterday after finding his truck on a private driveway and his shattered cell phone on the ground.
Curiously, police noted that Gabe had none of the injuries you'd think a young man would have spending all that time in a deep, dark forest. The important news was that Gabe was alive and well, and the city of Olympia breathed a deep sigh of relief. But there was still something that made police feel uneasy. The teenager initially told detectives he could not remember what happened to him or where he had been during his disappearance. He later stated that he could not say what had happened to him because people were going to hurt him. Gabe admitted damaging his own phone because he was afraid that the police were going to see what was on it. Gabe was free to return home to his excited family, but it wouldn't be the last time he would speak with the police. 40 miles away in the town of Orting, the puzzling disappearance of Gabe Davies had already taken a back seat to a more pressing crime, a murder. On the morning of September 1st, 2022, 12 hours before the triumphant return of the Olympia teenager, Pierce County Sheriff's deputies were dispatched to the home of 51-year-old Daniel McCaw after he missed a fourth day of work in a row. There they found McCaw's body, and it was determined he had been dead for a number of days.
The 51-year-old man was found by police on Thursday, but according to the Pierce County Sheriff's Department, he had been shot days earlier.
Home surveillance footage showed two skinny males crawling through the dog door at 2 a.m. on the morning of August 28th, carrying pepper spray and what looked like a handgun. 48 minutes later, the two young skinny males escaped through the side door, carrying unknown items. McCaw would remain in a pool of his own blood for almost 4 days until the morning deputies discovered the crime.
The first break in the case came on September 1st, 2022, when the Thurston County detective investigating the Gabe Davies disappearance was contacted by the father of Gabe's friend, Justin Yoon. Now, Justin's father claimed to have information about a homicide in Pierce County, Washington, and according to him, Gabe Davies was the perpetrator. What the man said next would shock even these seasoned detectives. Gabe Davies' murder victim was his mother's ex-boyfriend. With just a little digging, it was confirmed that 51-year-old Daniel McCaw was formerly engaged to Gabriel Davies' mother.
The Pierce County Sheriff's Department tells me they knew 16-year-old Gabriel Davies was a suspect on Thursday. The teen was missing under suspicious circumstances and found safe by the Thurston County Sheriff's Office Thursday night. Sources tell me the victim was the ex-fiancé of Davies' mother. The severity of the situation still shocking many who live on this street.
At one point, Gabe, his sister, his mother, and Daniel all shared the Orting home where he would later be found dead.
Within 12 hours of making the grisly find on September 2nd, 2022, 16-year-old football star Gabe Davies was arrested and taken into custody just a week before the start of his junior year.
Our detectives did a lot of work finding evidence at the scene as well as talking to other people and just developing good probable cause to try to figure out the connection between the suspects and the victim.
Deputies did not specify what that evidence was, but police say Davies knew the victim. Sources tell King 5 the man who was killed is the ex-fiancé of Davies' mother. Neighbors say the man had lived at that house in Orting for about 20 years.
In a matter of days, Davies went from the subject of an Amber Alert to the suspect in a brutal murder. Police weren't done making arrests because they knew from the surveillance video there were two assailants. Also taken into custody that day was 16-year-old Justin Yoon, the same Justin Yoon whose father had called police one day earlier to pin the crime on Davies. Why would these unassuming, normal teenagers participate in one of the worst crimes imaginable? And why did they choose McCaw as their victim? Police had a connection, but they didn't have a motive. That's when the case would take yet another wild turn.
On September 2nd, the police received a call from another father with information about the murder of Daniel McCaw. This time, however, it was the father of Gabe Davies, and the story he told was much different than what Justin Yoon's father had reported just one day earlier. According to this new version, Gabe Davies was a pawn in a game of revenge initiated by a dangerous biker gang.
Court documents also state that Gabe's father called law enforcement and told them that he was involved in the victim's death, saying his son was approached by the victim's biker buddies to steal something from the victim's residence. They threatened his son with harm if he didn't do it.
Gabe's father told investigators that his son had been approached by biker friends of the victim from a specific outlaw motorcycle club, who threatened him into stealing a certain item from Daniel McCaw's home. According to Gabe's father, they even threatened his son and family with harm if he didn't comply. The man went on to say that Gabe Davies then recruited best friend Justin Yoon for help, and the two concocted a plot to retrieve the unspecified items sought by the biker gang. It should be noted that Gabe's father blamed the murder squarely on Justin Yoon.
The two went to the victim's house and snuck in through the doggy door. His son, he said, knew where the victim's gun was kept and said that when the victim came into the house, Justin ran after him and stabbed him. He said then Gabe said he heard a gunshot and he went out into the garage to get the item out of the safe when he heard a second gunshot.
The father went on to blame Gabe's disappearance on the same biker gang that forced him to commit the robbery. He said the bikers found Gabe on the evening of August 28th and drove him around, roughing him up before releasing him.
Documents also state that Davies' father said his son claimed the victim's biker buddies followed him Wednesday and pulled him out of his vehicle on Tilley Road, and the blood in his truck was from the bikers smashing his face against the interior.
They followed him, assaulted him, and even took his shirt, socks, and shoes. They apparently searched his truck, believing he had the stolen item. They abducted him in a dark-colored Suburban before dropping him off 36 hours later, where he was found on the evening of September 1st.
Trying to figure out why these kids did this. You know, we don't get to sit them down and talk to them. The law makes it so that juveniles have to have an attorney present or counsel with an attorney before we're allowed to do any interviews.
Because of that, they say, they cannot yet publicly confirm a motive in the case.
But here's the twist, according to Gabe. They never actually stole anything. It seems like there's more to this story than meets the eye.
We know very little. Apparently, the boys didn't end up taking anything in the end, according to Davies' family and Davies. The Gabriel Davies ended up leading detectives to where they did dump the guns. But as far as we know, we haven't heard anything about any results of any searches.
As a result of these shocking revelations, both Gabe Davies and Justin Yoon are now facing serious charges.
For purposes of arraignment, I'll set bail at $1 million.
Attorneys for Gabriel Davies and Justin Yoon entered not guilty pleas as they listened to the charges of murder 1 and 2 read against them.
They've been charged with murder in the first and second degree, burglary in the first degree, and unlawful possession of a firearm in the second degree.
Before the victim was found, this was the picture that launched days of frantic searching for Gabriel Davies. The Thurston County Sheriff's Office said at that time he was an Olympia High School athlete that had disappeared under suspicious circumstances. Prosecutors citing that in court.
There's a concern for a flight risk.
Court documents state his truck was found on Tilley Road South with blood on the steering wheel and the driver's door panel. He was found the following day, and he and Justin were arrested Friday.
Of concern for the state in this is the level of planning that was exhibited by the defendant and his co-defendant.
During their court appearance, the judge set their bail at a staggering $1 million each. Instead of enjoying their senior year of high school in picturesque Olympia, Washington, these two teenagers are being charged as adults and facing decades.
I was at the arraignment for both of these young men, and in my career, I've had to look evil and soullessness in the eyes a lot of times. And I have to honestly say I didn't see that in these kids. They just look like young kids, and often you can see a sense of no remorse, a sense of just awfulness, of anger in them. And I didn't see this. These just look like two young high school kids. It's really a sad, sad story all the way around.
Now charged as an adult for his crimes, this staged abduction could see Gabe serve most of his life behind bars. It is truly one of the most disturbing and complex, twisted stories we've ever covered here on Have a Seat with Chris Hansen. Wes and I will stay on top of it and bring you the very latest details as we get them. I'll be watching. To watch another twisted tale about a staged kidnapping, in this case, the case of self-proclaimed supermom Sherri Papini, click the link on your screen.